Playtime is over. Games are getting serious. This week, Click gets to grips with a new generation of video games as the indie developers take inspiration from real life. Has the internet created a new world of artistic collaboration, or is this just a visual shouting match? All that plus the latest tech news and the app that takes the stress out of splitting the bill in Webscape. Welcome to Click, I'm Spencer Kelly. The video games industry has become an entertainment behemoth, with some titles generating millions in profits. But with success, the industry itself has been criticised as being risk-averse, preferring to stick to tried and tested formats instead of developing brand new ideas. There are, however, glimmers of more serious artistic intent peeking out from behind those state-of-the-art graphics, as Mark Chislak has been finding out.
Sports, first-person shooters, racing and action titles. These are the kinds of experiences that many people think of when you mention video games. But as the technology that we play games on has evolved, so has the content of games themselves.
Get ready. Do it.
Games like Call of Duty and massive franchises like Halo have meant that games have moved into mass market entertainment. As they move into mass market, there are other stories that can be told beyond an action movie or a science fiction movie. People making video games can have more courage now about the themes they can address. Video games reach a bigger audience than ever have before, which means you can have games with very deep emotional storylines.
Away from the mainstream video games industry, the independent sector, while lacking multi-million-dollar development budgets, is free to tackle more challenging material.
Inche, what's this?
Navid Kansari understands mainstream gaming. He's worked on titles such as Grand Theft Auto 3 and Alan Wake. His latest project is an altogether more personal affair. Called 1979, it's a game which explores the events leading up to the Iranian Revolution. Like many Iranians, Navid's family left the country as a result of that revolution.
Power has been taken over totally by the demonstrators.
These events led to the overthrow of the Shah and the Iranian monarchy, and ended with the establishment of a hardline Islamic State.
We've got games in which take place in Germany, let's say in World War II, but your whole objective is just to eliminate the soldiers or eliminate the enemy and get to that next stage. But to truly actually understand what was taking place in that country, whether it's on the shores of Normandy or whether it's in the streets of Paris, never really gets divulged to the audience.
کجا داری میری؟ huh? Baba, this road is closed. Move along. برو.
Having made documentaries and having worked in video games, I find that what is really appealing about documentaries is that true connection to real life stories, to real life people. And if you can actually put that as a part of a game, then you're making so much more of a enriched experience for the end user. So I think it's absolutely crucial to bring history into it, and I'm surprised that not a lot of people are doing that.
Hold up, let me check if it's clear.
Designed for consoles, PCs and tablets, in 1979 the player assumes the role of an ordinary young man who's returned from his studies abroad to find his country in crisis.
Stop! Up against the wall!
The player must make decisions such as choosing political allegiances and who they will or will not help.
Chia, what seems to be the problem?
What are you doing up there?
The player's choices ultimately affect the game's outcome.
Ichi, just taking pictures, عکس بگرفتیم.
Turn around! Push go! Barga!
Photographs of real events and audio from the period all feature, and Navid hopes the game will act as an educational tool.
It's argued that if you try to beat somebody over the head with education, that it's just not going to work. When I play a video game, I want to be entertained. But what I really love about games that I've played that have an immense amount of detail is that ooh, I didn't know that. It's not that I'm getting hit over the head with it, but that educational element is kind of coming in passively while you're being entertained in the foreground.
We do not fear you!
But anchoring a game in the real world isn't confined to representing events which have played out on a global stage.
He won't stop.
Perhaps the most personal example of a game based in reality is expressed in the indie title That Dragon Cancer,
Don't throw your head, buddy, don't.
a game that explores the experiences of its co-developer Ryan Green and his family. Ryan's 4-year-old son, Joel, has been fighting terminal cancer for the last 3 years. The game's title refers to a story Ryan's wife told to their children to explain how Joel was battling a dragon called cancer.
I hate this room.
So the first thing that we produced is a night that I spent in the hospital with Joel. And Joel was very dehydrated. It was one of the worst moments in this whole experience with Joel because Joel was in so much discomfort and pain, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. But also in that night, there was this moment of grace and peace that happened.
Oh God, I want him here with me. Please.
And I wanted to share with people both kind of the hard aspect of this night, and being brought to the end of myself, but also the grace that intervened. There are some things that video games can do that traditional media can't. And I think that I as a creator, I as an author can construct this world and invite the player to live in it. And I can have a conversation with them by offering them various choices and various paths within this world. And I think that that can present a far more impactful and a far more immersive and a far more empathetic experience. In the broader game, we plan on making a game with 6 or 7 scenes that are each about 10 minutes in length. So we're looking for an hour to an hour and a half, and it will explore the roller coaster ride that is living with cancer and battling cancer on a daily basis. We have 4 children, and so most of the time is spent in laughter and the day-to-day mundane tasks that happen in life. A very small amount of our life has been spent in the hospital. And so this will explore all of that.
Whether it's recounting world events or telling stories like Ryan and Joel's, titles like That Dragon Cancer highlight the ability of video games to have an emotional effect on the player long after they put the controller away.
Go!
Mark Chislak. And next up, a look at the big tech stories hitting the wires this week. British MPs want to question Twitter executives over whether the social network is doing enough to protect users from abuse. It comes after a female MP and a feminist campaigner received hundreds of threats, including some of rape, after successfully lobbying to have the author Jane Austen depicted on the new £10 note. More than 100,000 people have signed a petition demanding a report abuse button to be added to Twitter and appropriate follow-up action. Twitter says it's looking at simplifying its reporting process. Car giant BMW has unveiled its first fully electric car, saying the market has reached a tipping point with consumers. The usual sleek lines have gone, but then so is the cost of running a Beamer. The company says the i3 will go 100 miles on £2 worth of charge. It comes after the iconic American gas guzzler Hummer, which stopped production in 2009, burst back onto the scene as a rather petite 2-seater electric car. Google has launched a new photo sharing site for users to upload 360-degree images. Using the Android operating system Jelly Bean 4.2 or later, snappers can create surround photos that are geotagged and which can be uploaded and integrated with Google Maps in head-turning Street View fashion. Bad news for Nintendo's new console this week. The Japanese outfit has revealed that sales of the new Wii U have been so bad it's being outsold by its 6-year-old predecessor, the original Wii. One British supermarket has even taken it off its shelves. And finally, one of the largest space battles in the history of the known universe has taken place. But you could be forgiven for missing it. An intergalactic brawl between more than 4,000 players of the massively multiplayer space game EVE Online saw the CFC faction triumph over the Test Alliance. The grueling 5-hour battle resulted in the destruction of nearly 3,000 ships. EVE's virtual currency can be exchanged for real-world cash, so it's not just kudos lost. Previous scraps have seen thousands of dollars worth of ships turned into space dust. These days, everything seems to be moving into the cloud. And one of the many advantages of storing your documents online is that you can collaborate with other people, bouncing ideas off each other as if they were in the same room. And if you take thousands of artists and put them in the same virtual room as each other with a limitless virtual canvas and a bottomless tin of virtual paint, well, virtually anything can happen, as Dan Simmons has been finding out.
Traditionally, art has been a bit of a solitary activity. Set up your easel, wash the brushes, and get painting that fascinating bowl of fruit. The closest most artists have come to teamwork is probably swapping tips at a painting class. And while 100 years ago you might have been chuffed to fill a frame with your strokes and scribbles, nowadays the size of your canvas is a bit more daunting. Webcanvas.com is one site with enough space for everyone. It's theoretically infinite, in fact. Touting itself as the world's biggest collaborative painting, this giant medley of colour sits somewhere between anarchy and community. And while it's certainly pretty busy around here, it's hard to tell if this is collaboration or competition. It can feel a little like the visual equivalent of a shouting match. Take a delve into the site's forums though, and you'll find the team players behind some of the site's most impressive works. Gridcosm takes a more focused approach. This wormhole of weird and wonderful is an ever-expanding set of grids within grids within grids. 3,651 of them, and counting. The site doesn't seem to have changed much since it was launched more than 15 years ago. Nevertheless, with its smaller, close-knit community, the results feel less chaotic. And it's not just pictures that are getting the collaborative treatment. The Exquisite Forest project, backed by Google, asked amateur and professional animators to add their twist to an evolving tree of short stories. Many of these projects owe their roots to the macabrely named Exquisite Cadaver or Exquisite Corpse. This parlour game, purportedly invented by the French around 1918, was all the rage back in the day. Nearly 100 years later, and the professionals are sharpening their crayons as well. The latest incarnation of the Cadaver experience comes courtesy of software maker Adobe. For this project, each artist was given an hour to complete a square of digital canvas, using a sliver of their neighbour's work as a starting point. The latest iteration of Adobe's software boasts Dropbox-style cloud storage and integrates with work-sharing website Behance. Adobe hopes that this will make getting feedback and working together a bit easier.
I would love to meet the other people adjacent to my piece of work and just see what they think of how I responded to what they did, and vice versa, because it's really nice to talk to people about your own work and how your work relates to theirs and vice versa.
The finished work is over 1 kilometre long. The results are pretty mixed, with some people taking the collaborative spirit to heart, but others ignoring it altogether. And that could be the fundamental flaw. If we ever hope to crowdsource a masterpiece, Surely it's going to be more than a room full of people shouting at each other. These collective projects certainly emphasise individuality, so perhaps their beauty is in the juxtaposition of human expression, rather than the realisation of a shared vision.
Dan Simmons with the artwork that goes on and on and on. Now, nights out with your friends can be great, right up until the point where you have to split the bill. I've seen grown men cry arguing over who had what. That's the Click Christmas do, by the way. But one person who never loses any sleep over that is Kate Russell. And not because she doesn't have any mates, but because, of course, she has an app for that. Here comes Webscape.
Keeping track of your finances can get complicated, especially if you share any expenses with friends or flatmates. BillPin is an app that should stop you coming to blows over cash flow, as it lets you easily record who owes what, keeping everyone informed via email.
Splitting a restaurant bill can be such hard work. Douglas Adams even used it as a concept for powering a spaceship in his famous Hitchhiker's Guide series, the Bistro-Matic Drive. It's such a brilliant idea, but I guess if you want to create enough energy for interstellar travel, you probably don't want to pick this app up.
As well as free iPhone and Android apps to tally up as you go, you can use the Facebook login to keep a note through your browser. Whether you're splitting holiday expenses or spotting a colleague a fiver for lunch, you need never lose track of another debt. There's an impressive 40 default currencies to choose from, including beer and bitcoins, if that's the way you trade with your buddies. There are lots of online tools to help you pick a holiday destination, but once you have, it's all about getting the best deal in the perfect hotel at exactly the right time of year. That's where Pintrips wants to help. Instead of a straight price comparison tool, it lets you compare different flights, dates, or even destinations side by side on visual pinboards, connecting socially with others to collaborate on a decision.
I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag.
A consumer study last year showed that 87% of travellers use the internet to help plan their trip, with over 70% being influenced by social recommendations. It's a hot topic on the web right now, as developers rush to come up with the perfect business model for cashing in on this trend.
Prices and flight details are tracked and updated in real time while you decide on your final itinerary, making this a quick and responsive solution for group travel, even when your travelling companions aren't.
No squeal, and remember that it's all in your head.
The web is now awash with infographics, eye-catching, colourful displays of complex information and data sets created, supposedly, to make them easier to digest. Infogram is a neat tool that lets you make your own no mess, no fuss. Just click and load to edit one of the pre-designed templates, adding charts, maps, objects, images and video.
Beautiful thing coming your way, baby, you're looking good today.
I've been quite vocal in the past about how much I despise infographics. It's not that I have a problem with the concept, only when it's used as a cheap way of adding eye candy to a site. If a graphic doesn't bring clarity to the information you're sharing, all it really does is make your web page load slower, and that is just annoying.
The free account lets you share work hosted on Infogram through the usual channels. If you want to share it privately or download to host on your own website or share offline, then you'll have to upgrade to the Pro account. With billions and billions of indexed pages, the web is a huge and complex space. One data visualization expert has used interactive graphics to help us see the bigger picture by creating a stunning galaxy of internet traffic containing 350,000 planets, which represent the most clicked on websites, all colour-coded by country. As you zoom in, more websites are revealed. This is big data at its most beautiful and a perfect example of how to make information more accessible through a visual representation. If you must, you can call it an infographic. Talking of maps, quirky presentation tool Prezi has added a major new set of features to their popular service this week that allow users to collaborate in real time across the globe. Up to 10 people can now work together in a whiteboard-style environment, or you can deliver your presentation live to 30 viewers. To celebrate, the company has made an interactive map that lets you explore public collaborations in real time. In other map news, Google announced recently that it will be closing 2 social location sharing tools. Latitude retires on the 9th of August, and the Plus Local app, previously known as Google Places, goes a similar way on the 7th. In their place, the search giant has relaunched Zagat, a web tool and smartphone apps for Android and iPhone that help users find the best restaurants, bars and clubs.
Find a place where I can be myself again.
The recommendations are selected and reviewed by industry experts, so it's more of a guide than a social engine. But the interface is delicious, and there's a good selection of videos to dig into as well. Right now, the site and apps only cover 8 US cities plus London, although Google says that that will soon increase to 50 destinations, with more places of interest covered, like hotels and shopping.
Where I can be myself again.
Thank you, Kate. That's Kate's Webscape, and those links are available at our website if you missed them. bbc.co.uk/click the link you need. If you'd like to get in touch with us about anything that you've seen in this week's programme, then you can. We're available on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook. And we still have our old email address that we used to talk so much about too. Click at bbc.co.uk, the address you need for that. That's it for now, though. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.